What do you think your role will be on that team?
To help us win games.
Maybe he's past his prime, 38 years old, and having the worst shooting season of his career, but Chris Paul is proving why he was a perfect fit for the Warriors. Chris Paul brings the offensive IQ, the defensive acumen, and the team-first mentality to the Warriors, all things they really needed after last year's flameout. Draymond didn't mince words when talking about his team last season, a team that still included Jordan Poole.
Last year we had an awful team as far as chemistry goes. It was pathetic. But chemistry has been a strong suit here. Last year was horse. It's hard to come to work, not fun, And so this year you see the joy, on guys' face when they come in the building. You got guys like staying over 2 or 3 hours after, just sitting around talking, getting here 2 and 3 hours early just to be here. It's like.
So Chris Paul has made the Warriors more fun, but can he help them on the court too? Remember, Chris is the guy who once dropped 20 assists with 0 turnovers in a single game. Only the 4th guy ever to do that. And he was the only one to also score 20 points in the same game, sealing his case as the undisputed point god. For his career, he's averaged 9.5 assists and only 2.4 turnovers per game, almost a 4.0 assist-turnover ratio. That's incredible, the best all time for guys with at least 7,000 assists. There is no one better in history at keeping control of the ball, and the Warriors desperately needed that change. Last season, they were the worst team in the league at turning the ball over, coughing it up 16.3 times per game. The only team that was even close to that mark was the Houston Rockets, who won 22 games last year. Not exactly the best group to be in. In every season of the Steve Kerr era, the Warriors have been near the top in turnover rankings. Really, their only flaw as a team. But they have been good enough offensively to get away with it. Is that still the case? As it turns out, no. Part of this new Chris Paul addition was getting rid of Jordan Poole, a streaky scorer with a bad habit of turning over the ball. Poole might have a sick crossover, but Paul does a few things that protect offensive possessions. First off, Chris himself has great handles, which speaks for itself. It might not be the Jason Williams, Allen Iverson highlight handles, but he's a master of the fundamentals. He's also an insanely accurate passer, which doesn't just go away with age. But most importantly, he controls the pace of the game like nobody else. Chris is a slow it down type of point guard, one who waits for the right opening in the defense. It's methodical, picking his spots and never forcing the issue. This might seem counterintuitive for the Warriors, who played at the highest pace in 2023. Their guys are used to overpowering defenses with sheer skill, mostly on the backs of their shooting. But is this difference in style exactly what Golden State needed? So far, it's working. The Warriors are sitting at 6-5, not the best start of the Steph Curry dynasty, but Chris Paul is showing that he fits in this system, and they are better than their record shows, though they still have the 7th best offensive rating. On top of that, Chris might be one of the best pick and roll guys we've ever seen. He's patient enough to wait for his guy to get into position, and then waits for the defensive player to make his decision. But just like that, Chris makes his move. He's never had the stop-and-go athleticism of players like Derrick Rose or Russell Westbrook, but he is such a quick and decisive decision maker, it's like he's playing a step ahead. Obviously, first look is to hit the man rolling to the basket. Second look is hitting the mid-range shot, where Chris excels. But he's got a dozen more pick-and-roll moves in his back pocket. Like here, when he fakes left and cuts right around Ayton. When his defender picks him up, he loops back left. Ayton keeps the defense honest while Chris hits an open look. Tyson Chandler, DeAndre Jordan, Ayton all had career years when playing with Chris, seeing their points and field goal percentages jump up. The Warriors are used to Draymond playing on the elbow, letting Steph bring the ball up and dish it to him. From there, Dre either dishes it back to Steph for an open look, or he swings it inside. Now they have a second player to make that read, and unlike Draymond, Chris is actually a three-point threat, though he hasn't really proven that this year. Cp3 is having a career worst year shooting the ball, hitting only 37% of his field goals and 15% from deep. Now that's obviously gonna jump up a little, but it still might be concerning for the Warriors. It's no secret, the Dubs love to let it fly from deep. But throughout their run, they haven't worried too much about how many players on the court can make a bucket. They just care about getting Clay and Steph open looks. You can never really have too many good passers on a court. The Warriors are obsessed with the motion offense, circling the ball until one of two things happens. Steph or Clay gets an open three, or a free man gets a cut to the basket. While this hasn't been Chris's style throughout his career, Steph thinks he's already catching on.
I guess the summary is it's mad fun. I get the rebound, I push, I can throw it ahead in transition knowing he's pretty sure with the ball, he makes the right decision. He's been really good catching and shooting when he's open, moving out the basketball. We have me, him, and Clay in certain runs this summer.
Chris is one of the most high IQ players in history. Even as he ages, that's not something that just slips. He's a good enough passer and a willing enough player to fit into that system. Now, Chris is barely 6 foot, meaning he's always at a disadvantage at the rim. Now that his legs are starting to slip, he's basically a non-factor when it comes to cutting to the basket. But they don't need him to. Just swing the ball, find the open man, and take your shot when it comes. Simple, pure basketball. Chris might also be in the running for the greatest defensive point guard of all time, despite his lack of size. He's got quick hands and knows where to be. In his prime, no one could get around him. He could hold his own against big guys in the post, if only because he could poke the ball out while they dropped before elevating. Even at his age, he at least knows where to be, which is more than you can say for some guys. He's no longer a lockdown defender, but no offensive player is outsmarting him. If you go to a Warriors game, you can hear him calling out sets, just like Draymond's been doing for years. Now, 2 defensive masterminds on the same team? Is that fair? His threes will eventually start falling. He's a career 37% three-point shooter, eclipsing that last season. Once that happens, the Warriors will be even more dangerous. That is, if he can stay on the court. Chris's greatest weakness throughout his career has been injury concerns. It's not that he misses extended amounts of time consistently, like Anthony Davis or even Grant Hill back in the day, but it seems like he's never able to last through the playoffs. Now that he's pushing 40, shouldn't that be a concern for a team with championship hopes? Actually, it's the exact reason the Warriors are the perfect fit for him. Chris doesn't have to play heavy minutes on this team. They have Steph at point guard. The Warriors don't need him to make the playoffs. The regular season is more meaningless than it's ever been. Remember, we almost had an 8 seed, 7 seed matchup in the finals last year. Chris won't have a heavy workload this season. He's already come off the bench 7 times, which is 7 more times than he has in his entire career combined. He's averaging 27 minutes a game, 4 fewer than he's ever played. And while the NBA is cracking down on resting players, they do have exemptions for old guys like Chris, meaning he might spend a lot of time in his street clothes this year. They're keeping him fresh for when it really matters, playoff time. As long as he can play 6 weeks in the postseason, the Warriors are happy. That is where it went wrong for the Suns over the last 3 years. They relied on him too much in the regular season. By the time he got to the playoffs, his legs were just gone. In the 2021 finals, they just needed 2 more games out of him. But for a guy in his mid-30s, that was too much to ask. But give the Suns a break. They had just missed the playoffs for a decade straight before Chris came around. They were just happy to get some wins. The Warriors have bigger things in mind. Steve Kerr has been really impressed with how Chris is sacrificing for his new team.
It's massive. It's massive the way Chris has embraced everything,
He's sacrificing minutes, shots, assists, and glory in order to get his first title. Throughout NBA history, a few guys have piggybacked on dynasties to get that coveted chip before retiring, like Mitch Richmond on the 2002 Lakers, Gary Payton on the 2006 Heat, or Peja on the 2011 Mavs, or when T-Mac tried to sneak a ring on the 2013 Spurs, though Ray Allen had other plans. Is this what Chris is doing? Well, sort of. But unlike these guys, especially Mitch, Chris will actually have a noticeable impact on the Warriors' 2024 fate. It's more like Jason Kidd on those 2011 Mavericks. Sure, he's past his prime. No, he wasn't the reason they won a title. But Kidd brought his veteran savvy, his malleable play, his hard-nosed effort, and his desperation to avoid going down as the greatest ringless point guard of all time. Can Chris Paul do that for the Warriors? Let us know in the comments and watch this video next. Listen to The Wrong Opinion, Useless NBA Trivia, and Garbage Rankings for more NBA content.